We're back now with presidential candidate Marianne Williamson. And Marianne, I wanted to pick up with, you were talking about the president's attacks on Baltimore and Elijah Cummings and Bernie Sanders and Reverend Al Sharpton. And this is part of a pattern, not only a part of a pattern of racism, but also of the president using his Twitter platform and his megaphone to sort of distract people and stir them up. And what we've seen in the past, and we saw this in 2016, is Hillary Clinton would engage in these tit for tats. It would become a media spectacle, and it really allowed the president to be able to drive the media coverage and have the conversation that he wanted to have. What do you think is the right way to deal with him? I mean, if you are the nominee, how would you respond to this kind of a moment?
I remember how Ronald Reagan used to say, "Oh, there they go again." And I think that when it comes to the president talking to me, and of course, if I'm the nominee, the president will say all kinds of horrible things about me. It is only to be expected. And I think controlling any emotional temptation that I would have to react would be the most important work. It's like, oh, there he goes again. And the conversation that will be important is not the conversation with the president. The conversation that is important is the conversation with the American people. But the American people should not underestimate, as I said before, the danger of this kind of language. Demonizing your political opponents, we don't do that in this country, Crystal. Your political opponents are not your enemies. And when you start attacking your political opponents, and you know what he's doing here is he's warning people. These are warning shots. If you in any way disagree with him, he's coming after you. And this is what authoritarian dictators do. You know, people don't want somebody to be negative, but there's nothing negative about yelling fire if, in fact, the house is burning down. And we've got a fire in our democracy, and it's time to yell fire, not out of personal outrage, but out of love for our democracy and a commitment to protect it from all oppositional forces, domestic or foreign.
You gave an interview to the New York Times where it seemed to me like they really wanted to try to get you to say something controversial. They were asking you about antidepressants, and you expressed what to me is justified skepticism of Big Pharma's motivations in having so many people on antidepressants. The U.S. prescribes more antidepressants per adult than any other industrialized country. So many people are on antidepressants that you could find the stuff in our water supplies. I don't think it's crazy to ask the question, what's going on at a societal level that is leading so many people to feel so badly? And then also, what is Big Pharma's motivations here? But just explain your position there. And again, what did you think about that New York Times interview and how that came across?
Well, my position is exactly what you just expressed. You know, we have attorneys general all over the country that are now indicting big pharmaceutical executives for their known role in the opioid crisis. So what would make us think that, given what we know about their role in the opioid crisis, where overprescription, overmedication of painkillers was absolutely their marketing plan, what makes us think that in every other area they're just the paragon of pure intent and concern for the common good? To have a questioning around that is, I believe, what we should be having. You know, Crystal, 75% of all of our research on drugs in this country comes from big pharmaceutical companies. There has been, over the years, a defunding and a decrease in support for the Centers for Disease Control, National Institute of Health, and the Food and Drug Administration, which should be the watchdog agencies. They should be the legitimate oversight. They should be the agencies that are overseeing this. So when you look at something like the role that Big Pharma played in the opioid crisis, the real intelligent question is, where the heck was our government? And then to ask the next question, which is, where are they now in relation to every other kind of drugs? And what you'll see is that they're complete. In too many cases, our government is just this whore to big pharma, just like it is to insurance companies, just like it is to gun manufacturers, just like it is to chemical companies, just like it is to fossil fuel companies, and just like it is to defense contractors. And that's why I'm running for president. Because in too many cases, and this is just one of them, we are just allowing short-term profits from multinational corporations. They're the new bottom line. I read a quote from a Croatian the other day. He said, "I've never seen a country so invested in protecting its abusers."
Very interesting quote. You know, one of the other candidates that I think has interesting ideas and is approaching this campaign from a just fundamentally honest perspective is Andrew Yang, another one who's been sort of written off by the media. And the core of his platform, he has many policy positions, but the core is this idea of what he calls a freedom dividend or universal basic income. What do you think of that idea?
I think he's right. I think we have a tsunami coming at us in the form of automation. I think a lot of people just haven't really stopped to think about it. I read his book, The War on Normal People. I don't know if you've read it yet, but boy, he lays it out. There are countries, there are states, for instance, where, and I think about 9 states, where the primary industry is trucking. Well, trucks are going to be driverless. So if somebody's had a career as a truck driver for decades, where are they supposed to go? What are they going to do? And when people say, oh, we're going to have job retraining statistically has not been the great boon that we thought it was going to be, because it's one thing to retrain people. What are they supposed to do with that retraining if they don't have jobs? So when you look at how many of our industries are quickly becoming automated, and how this is going to be accelerated, and how this is going to grow exponentially over the next few years, I think the only way to avoid economic catastrophe is through a universal basic income. And I'll tell you something else that I find so interesting that I didn't know until I read about it recently. Milton Friedman, Crystal, who was the main articulator of trickle-down economics, he was the main one saying, let the market rule, get the government out, let government forces prevail. Do you know he himself, Crystal, argued and said, well, of course, to do this, though, we're going to have a universal basic income to make it safe.
Yeah, Friedman supported it. Nixon actually explored the idea, so it has a lot of support on both the left and the right that you wouldn't necessarily expect. 2 quick questions for you. So the next debate's in September. We'll go ahead and look past these debates in Detroit. Good luck tonight. I know you're going to do well and continue to spark the interest and curiosity, expand the minds of the American public. Looking forward to September. The criteria gets harder. How close are you to where you need to be on that debate stage?
I need 41,000 more unique donors. So a unique donor is someone who hasn't given anything. So even $1. So I need 41,000 more unique donors. Even at $1, I say to people, as all candidates do, you don't have to know for sure you'll vote for me, but if you just want me to stay in the race and be a voice here, make sure, please, you go to Marianne2020.com and give at least $1. I think I'll need 2% in 4 major polls as well. But I feel confident, Crystal, because every day people are waking up to the idea that same old, yada, yada, yada. First of all, it won't pave the way to the future we all want for our children and our grandchildren. It won't even defeat this president.
Last quick question. You mentioned Andrew Yang's book, War on Normal People, which I have read, by the way. Give us another Marianne Williamson reading list, 2 books outside of your own, which people should pick up if they're interested, but outside of your own books, 2 that you think are really interesting and vital for understanding this moment.
Well, first of all, and I will mention my last one, A Politics of Love. If I had it here, I'd pick it up. I'd be glad to send it to you if you don't have it. I was very moved by Ronan Farrow's book, War on Peace. I think it's a very important book. And also the one, Sapiens. I forget the name of the man. He's an Israeli author. Which doesn't specifically speak to American politics, but it speaks to where humanity is and where humanity has come. It's really affected my thinking, and I think that when people read it, it's like, wow, Sapiens.
Yeah, that's Yuval Harari, I think, is the author of that one. Another great book. Marianne, thank you so much. Good luck tonight, and we hope to see you again here on Rising.
I look forward to it. Thank you so much, Crystal.
We'll have more Rising after this.